Okay, so I legitimately don't care about any of the comments that, like, I just don't care. Like, I put these videos up for documentary purposes. I assume that most of the people who watch these videos and get value from them will do so after I am dead and gone. So I'm not, like Terrence McKenna and Alan Watts and stuff, I'm not making these for the people who are watching them right now. I'm making these for the people who are watching them in the future and the people watching them right now. But I just want to talk a little about permissive parenting. It's just so funny to me because I don't go in for that at all. And a lot of people go in for permissive parenting. It's so funny. Like, you'll see these parents and they're like on the ground with their kids talking to them. They're like, please do this now. And the kids screaming. They're like, please do this. Oh, they don't want to do this. Oh, I guess the kid runs my life. Like, I guess my child runs my life. And this is something that everyone has to, oh, excuse me, pardon me. So this is something everyone has to deal with and everyone has to think about in their life. Like, you got to think about, how do you want to parent? How are you going to parent? What does your kid need as a parent? So my personal beliefs are, this isn't even like my personal beliefs. This is just what the psychological literature suggests. This is what history shows. This is what ABA therapy training has taught me. This is what being an older brother and older cousin has taught me. This is just reality. And people who don't like it don't like reality. And I don't care if I'm offending them because they're morons and their genes will not survive, or they'll survive as slaves. So yeah, I'll just say all that. I don't care. I love when Nietzsche talks about the rank ordering of man. And I don't know if you can tell, but I consider myself pretty high up on the rank ordering of man scale. Why is that? Well, because when I see things that need to be done, I do them. I don't know. Everyone, you gotta think something of yourself. Like, you gotta think of yourself some way. And you have to back that up. You have to negotiate that with your wife before he thinks you're a piece of shit. And you're like, I'm not a piece of shit. And like, oh, you should probably sort that out. But I think I'm awesome. Why? Because I do things that make me think I'm awesome. Why is that? Well, because when there's problems, I deal with them like a boss. So let's say kids. You're taking your kids around. Your kids are misbehaving. You're like, okay, I'm going to take half an hour. I'm going to sit down and I'm going to explain to them. I'm going to treat this child that's acting like a screaming child like an adult. I will treat a screaming child like an adult. Well, sometimes it's good. Sometimes it's bad. It really depends. Depends on how your kid's going to react to that. So I think it's good, Give your kid a lot of empathy. Let them do what they want. But when it starts to get to the point where you don't like your kids, like where you can't bring them places because they're just acting bad and they want to go with you, let me just throw it out there. Like, all the parents who stick their kids in daycare, like, why do they do that? Because they don't know how to make their kids tolerable to be around. Like, let's just be real. Like, or they work and stuff. But a lot of childcare just exists because people hate their children. Just straight up. They just don't like their kids. They don't like being around their kids. You can see it. They just don't. They don't like it. And why is that? Well, I think that, just to be completely, like, it's, I don't know, I don't want to be too insulting as I say, because they're cowards. But I think it's somewhat accurate, but it might not be the best way of phrasing it. So why is it that they don't like their children? They don't like their children because they're afraid to punish their children. They do not want to upset their children. Because when you punish the kids, it's upsetting. They scream, they cry. I personally, the punishment I go in for is just spanking. I just spank them. Give them hugs afterward. Everything. I take them with me, like everywhere. Like, I take my kids to get haircuts with me. I take my kids to work with me. I take my children to work with me sometimes. Pretty regularly, honestly. At least like 2 or 3 times a month. I take them to work with me, just all day. You're hanging out with me now. You're with daddy. We're doing work together. And the reason I can do that is because when I tell my kids, stop touching the knife on my desk, and they go touch it again, I whack them. I just whack them. Immediately. No warning. And you know what they do? They don't touch the knives on my desk anymore. It's a fucking miracle. And honestly, I feel bad for hitting them. I do. I always feel bad. I always do. I always feel bad. Never feels good. Never like it. But it's so funny. My eldest daughter, actually, she'll hold my face in her hands. She goes, I forgive you, Daddy. I love you and I forgive you. And I'm like, I forgive you too, April. I don't like hitting you. I don't want to hit you. I'm sorry I hit you, April. She goes, I forgive you, Daddy. Then I take her everywhere with me. It's great because I've hit her like a lot. Like hundreds of individual times of hitting her. I'm just telling you guys this because if you're watching this and you want to be a good parent, like, I don't know, if you want to know parenting tips, you want to just commiserate with me about the difficulty of parenting, whatever. But it's like, and I'm not doing it vindictively, it's just like, it's like this. This is how I think about it. I'm like, okay, my job as a parent is to make my children tolerable to other people and themselves. Because ultimately, kids don't like it when they're misbehaving. They actually don't. They actually resent you for allowing them to misbehave because then you end up not liking them. You give them iPads. These are iPad kids. I don't have iPad kids. The kids don't do that. I mean, not that I don't ever give them a screen, but they're not iPad kids. And if I watch a movie, I'll watch a movie with them or something. But, like, I'm not going to have children, to the best of my ability, because, I mean, they're their own people to some degree, that do not know how to behave, because then other people won't like them and they won't be able to go anywhere. My kids, though, they're great. Like, people love to watch my children. Like, I get compliments all the time. Other people watch my kids, like, you have the most polite children I have ever met. And, like, they're still fun. They're still crazy. They still run around screaming and being nuts, but when it's appropriate to, most of the time. And it's funny, like, my brother at dinner today, he was like, you know, April, like, doesn't listen. I'm like, yeah, she listens. He's like, well, she doesn't obey. And I'm like, dude, I'm like stealing salt shakers off other tables. Like, I don't fucking obey. Like, what do you mean? Like, she exists. She acts well enough that we could take her places. But Jason, my brother, he had this idea that they should just be like robots. Like, no, I'm not going to make my kids be like robots. That's crazy. But it's like, let's say we're at a restaurant. She was like in the chair. She's kind of like moving around. She's kind of like playing with the forks and stuff. And Jason was like, don't play with the forks. And she keeps playing with the forks. She's like, she doesn't obey. And I'm like, dude, she is sitting in this chair. She is eating her food. She is not screaming. She is not causing a nuisance to any of their guests. She is not damaging property. She is not throwing things. She is not pissing and shitting herself. She is being a model citizen right now. Like what do you, it's like this like lack of self-awareness. So you have to have your goals right. Like, don't just be like, and you also have to spend a lot of time around your kids. Like, I never spanked my kids until I'd spent like a ton of time around them, really observing their behavior. So I could see exactly the point where they decided that they weren't going to listen and they were going to start fucking with me. Because they do. Like, you just look at them. Like, if you observe your children, you really observe them for days on end, you'll see. They're smart. They're just going to fuck with you. They're going to be like, I don't actually have to listen to you. Like, oh yeah, you're just saying that, but I'm like, okay, whack. And then they're like, ah, and then they're fine. And then they don't do it again. And then I can take them places with me. And then they get life experience. Like, what my kids want most in the world right now is to go places with mommy and daddy and like their grandmother and grandfather, and just to like be in the world and interact with people. They love walking with people and saying hi to them. So I've taught them, however painful it was, I've taught them how to be the sort of people that people want to be around, even at a young age. So now whenever people are around them, they're like, oh my God, you have like wonderful children. And that's really great. It is really great to have that, because that's what they want. And they're not stressed. This is the thing, like, if your kid thinks that they run the house because, let's say, you let them run the house, that's really stressful for your kid, because they don't know how to run the house. They pick up on these things. Like, it's like bedtime. Like, here's an example with bedtime. Once my 3-year-old got to the point where she could understand bedtime. Like, she could understand that it was time for bed. And I made sure she could understand that. I said, okay, I'm going to cuddle you. I'm going to put you in your room. But if you come out of your room after bedtime, I'm going to spank you. And then I just did a few times when she did. And then she doesn't leave her room. I mean, she'll like say, oh, I need milk. And she communicates with us. We communicate all the time. I talk to my daughters all the time. I literally just talk to them. Even like my youngest, who's like 2, and she like talks like a little bit. Talk to her all the time. Just talk to her, sit down. And she understands. She looks at me like complete focus like this. And then I talk to her, she smiles, looking at me. And it's like the cutest little thing. And like she knows what I expect from her to the degree that it is reasonable for her to know that. And that is the basis of a wonderful relationship. So I'm just saying this because I got some funny comments from some people whose genetics won't survive the winter. They're like, oh my God, seek help. I just think it's so funny. So I'm throwing this out there for people who have two brain cells to rub together. So I also want a short too, so I rank people according to attention span. That's one of the main ways that I rank people. So that's why I make long form videos, because just like people who don't have attention spans are morons, like just straight up, or at least they're engaged actively in behaviors that make them indistinguishable from morons. And I just spent a lot of time talking to morons, and I prefer talking to intelligent people with attention spans who seek the truth and want to really understand things. So that's why I make these videos this way. So really not into permissive parenting. I think it's bad. I think that the way to parent is the way that's best for your child, which is ultimately to teach your child how to exist in the best possible world. Like, let's just break this down logically. Like, what is best for your kid? Well, what are the things that make life good? Well, organization, cleanliness, communication, boundaries, all these things. And people will debate this, but at the end of the day, like, if you do not keep your house clean, if you just like let the water run, the sink overflows, because you're being a permissive parent, because your kid wanted to play in the sink, so you're just letting them overflow the sink, then you're going to have a flooded house. And that's going to suck, because now your house is flooded, and now it's going to grow mold. There's going to be like health problems as a result of the mold. Now your kids are going to have health problems. And then what are you going to do when they have health problems? Because they're going to like, let's just say they're 6. They want to be on the iPad all the time. So now you have like these kids who just destroyed your house. They want to be on the iPad all the time because they're living in a moldy house. And they just let them be on the iPad. This is how you get seriously autistic. And I say this as someone who's worked in the autism industry. Seriously autistic children that aren't autistic, but simply have never had boundaries in place. Look into wilderness therapy. Oh my God, what's wilderness therapy? Wilderness therapy is you take kids with serious issues out in the woods. You basically just like, you just kind of like introduce them to reality, let's say. Like, it's rough. It's just rough stuff. Look into wilderness therapy. I haven't looked into it that much, but I've seen videos of people who have been through wilderness therapy, and they're like, it was the worst and most traumatizing experience of my life, but I'm happy my parents put me through it. But it was the worst and most traumatizing experience of my life. But I'm happy my parents put me through it, and they whatever. So I'm just like, whatever. I'm just going to discipline my kids so that they know how to behave by the time they're like 5. And they're well on track to that. It's like, I'm just as consistent as gravity. Like, try pulling a fast one on gravity. Not happening. Try pulling a fast one on me. Not happening. I love them. Very compassionate. I will sit with them to the ends of the world. I will sit with them. I will spank them. And then after they cry, I will sit right there and I'll look at them in the eyes and I will like absorb their misery. And I'll sit with them in their misery. When they're sick, I'll sit with them in their misery. And I do that so they know. Like, they know Daddy's with me. And they love me. Like, they just love me. And I love them. And I would do anything for them, including punish them. As messed up as that sounds to all you soy boys that definitely don't have the attention span to make it 14 minutes into a video. Probably also not reproducing either. That's whatever. The people who say this stuff, they're not even reproducing. They're just wastes of genetic material. It's oh. I just think it's funny. Like, I love just saying exactly what I think of people because it's fun. Like, I'm gonna die someday, so yeah, I think that people who comment, oh my God, how could you spank your children on a YouTube video? I think you're an absolute waste of genetic material. You're not gonna make it through the winter. Not even a little bit. I actually think you can divide up the world into places where they believe in disciplining your children and places without running water. Seriously. Like, seriously, just look at people I did ABA therapy for a number of years. And the thing is, like 2 different years I did ABA therapy for like administering it. There are so many parents, like their main issue, honest to God, is just that they can't discipline their own children. Like I had this kid who, he would just like run. He would just run off. So all I did with this kid, he would just destroy the house. Like he would be like, oh, like he would pull all the drawers out and climb up the bookshelf or the chest of drawers, get on top of it, grab a crayon, jump off screaming while he drags the crayon across the wall. Parents are just like, whatever, we can't do anything. This kid was really smart. Like, it was really stupid that this was happening. By the time I was done with this kid, I only had him for 2 months because I quit because I just hated this job because the company was terrible. But by the time I started, this kid was just doing that. By the time I was done, I could take him for walks. I could play Frisbee with him. He could play Connect 4 and beat me in Connect 4. I mean, granted, I wasn't trying that hard, but I actually could get him to, like, actually win a game of Connect 4. And they were like, this kid is nonverbal autistic. No, he's not. He's just never encountered boundaries. You know what I did the first time he tried to run off? I said, don't ever do that again. You know what I did the second time he tried to run off? I took him down. I put my knee in his chest. And I said, don't do that again. I didn't put any weight on him. Didn't hurt him at all. Like, I just took him down. I took him down, controlled him on the ground. I was like, do not ever do that again. He just didn't do it again. Just didn't do it. Didn't hurt him at all. I did not cause him a single bit of discomfort. And just, I want to add, like, I actually gave him my own jacket when it was raining. It started raining, like, later on, like, weeks later. And we were walking outside. I just took out my own jacket, gave him my jacket. He was just sneezed all over, got all snotty. Whatever. I mean, like, I am compassionate. I will give you the shirt off my back. That's not why I'm shirtless right now. I'm shirtless because it's just nice out. But I will give you the shirt off my back. But I only do that if it's good for you. Like, if you sold your shirt to some fucktwats for cocaine, now you're, like, coming to me like, hey, man, I need a shirt. Probably going to be like, hey, asshole, got some fucking pants on. Give them the, what? Like, yeah, what if I just decided to take your pants? Like, hey, maybe you shouldn't be a fucking cracked out coke fiend and maybe you get your shit together. I'd be like, oh, like, yeah, I mean, give you a little tough love. Like, it's fucking so stupid. Like, it's just so dumb. It's like, people will, like, let their children ruin their life. They just, like, it's just so dumb. Like, I just see this. I just see people, like, not here, actually. It's so funny. I'm at a very nice resort. And everyone here has well-behaved children. I wonder how that is. I wonder why people at the nice, expensive resort discipline their children. Could it be that they understand how systems work and human behavior works and they're not just... It's so silly. Like, all these people like, oh my God, like, I can't. Oh, it's just weakness. It's just such... Your children want you to be a strong leader. Like, my children... They love me for disciplining them because I can take them anywhere, they can meet anyone, and I'm actually happy to see them, like, all the time. I'm actually really happy to see them. I'm like, yeah, do not let your children do things that make you dislike them, and say no to permissive parenting. Like, geez Louise, permissive parenting, like, what is this? Like, since when did children run the house? It's really what it is. Like, if you have to negotiate with your 3-year-old, what's the negotiation? Like, what's the negotiation, really? Really, like, I mean, you can throw a tantrum. I'm not going to spank them throwing a tantrum. I love it. It's called self-punishing. They're just self-punishing. It's miserable to throw a temper tantrum. So you know what I do? I just let them. But if they start trying to break things, then I spank them. I don't just let them be in this state. Then they get really upset and they start, like, trying to hit things. Spank. Go back to throwing the tantrum. And I'll just sit there watching them. People will be like, oh my God, you're a monster. Well, your genes won't survive, so whatever. Not like, again though, I'll throw this out there, like, different people, different kids with different needs. Like, the main thing that really, the message of the video is, I know what my kids need because I spend a ton of time with them. Like, I'll just sit down, I'll stare at them for 2 hours straight without talking on a microdose of psilocybin mushrooms. Just breathing in and out, just like... I just do that. I just stare at them for like an hour, 2 hours, as long as it needs, as long as it takes for my nervous system to understand what their nervous system needs. And then I give it to them. And then they love me for it. But at some point, they test it. They're like, this is all wonderful, but what if I just destroy it for no reason? Well, then you get spanked. And they actually like that because it makes them feel at peace. They know that their environment is not going to be destroyed at the drop of a hat by, that looks cool. I want to go check that out. But they know that if they know that their environment is not subject to like random interference. Like random people are not just going to show up and interfere with their life. Like daddy will actually stop that. So I become a center of peace and stability for them. And they'll just be like, want daddy, want daddy, want daddy, want daddy. Because I give them peace, I give them boundaries, and that makes them happy. It's a very nice thing when your children, they have that sense of peace, they have that sense of boundaries. And I see this, and I see other people's kids who don't have that, and they're much more insecure, they're much less happy, they're much less social, because they don't really know. It's like, I don't know, if I do something wrong, mom and dad aren't really going to punish me, so I don't really know if I do something wrong. They're just going to act resentfully towards me in weird ways to understand that I feel unloved. And that's what it is. That's your choice as a parent. You can either punish your kid, or you can allow them to sit in ambiguous misery, not knowing why their parents don't like interacting with them, because all they do is look at your face and see your facial expressions and see how you feel. Oh, also though, the other point I was going to say is like little kids can't understand the consequences of their actions. So it's like the hot stove. I'd let my kid touch the hot stove because it's like, it's a reasonable thing. But let's say running into the road with cars. Here's a good example. Running into the road with cars. I can't let my kid go run into the road with cars because that would kill her. So if she tries to run the road with cars, I spank her so that she gets a little taste of what would happen if she ran into the road. And that's kind of just how I take it. I'm like, okay, I'm not going to let my kid smash everything in my house because that would be really bad for all of us. So instead of letting them do that, I will give them a little bit of the pain, a very small amount of the pain that would have just naturally resulted from the behavior. So that's kind of all spanking is. It's just you spare your children from the real consequences of their actions by giving them a taste, a controlled, safe taste of what what it is. And I tell them this like a million times before. I'm like, look, like I love you. I don't want to hit you, but if you do this, it will cause a lot of pain to you and me, and I can't let you do that. So if you try to do it, I will spank you. And then I just do. And then and you have to be very consistent with that, to the point where now, finally, with my 3.5-year-old, I'll be walking around with her. I took her to get my hair cut. I take her everywhere with me. Or I know my wife's putting her down, but take her everywhere with me. And all I have to do now is just say to her, April, do not do that. It will make me very angry. And she doesn't do it. It's great. I mean, she may test that at some point, but I'm ready for that, and I'll just spank her and then move on. And again, the goal is not just to spank your kids. The goal is to get them to do the behavior you need them to do so you can reward them. That's all I want. All I want to do is reward my kids for doing great things. But I can't do that unless they do great things, and I can't do that unless they stop doing bad stuff. So it's just the minimum amount of necessary force to get your children to do the right thing so that you can immediately reward them and shower them in love and joy and praises. And then they're like, wow, that's amazing. It's like, yeah. And then you just take them everywhere with you, and it's great. And that's how you don't have to let other people raise your kids, because you can actually raise them yourself. You don't have to stick them in school. You don't have to stick them in daycare. You don't have to it's hard to homeschool them and stuff. And I'm not saying, I probably get caught with there's going to be a whole bunch of stuff that's I'm about to deal with. I'll make videos and all of that. But it's just a matter of what happened. You put your kid in the military just beats the crap out of you. Put him in wrestling beats the crap. Put him in martial arts beats the crap out of him. It's like everything that creates discipline involves physical pain. And it's weird that we can't understand that as a society. Like, I just see people, and it's like, I don't know, there's just people out there, and I'm like, your major issue is that your parents never spanked you. Like, you were just never given a taste of what your actions create. So now you just run around like a maniac, and then everyone in your life avoids you. Everyone avoids you. Because it's not tolerable. And it stinks for people like that, but I don't know. This isn't like a pro spanking video. It's just like, you got to take ownership of your kids. It's like you're the captain of the boat and they're on the boat. Like, you're gonna let the crew sink the boat and then everyone dies? Who does that help? Done.